Today I'm going to review Bad Batch Season 1, Episode 7, Battle Scars. Then I'm going to go over the question of Bad Batch's overall mission. I'm Nate and this is my YouTube channel. If you like the content in today's video, make sure to hit the like button or leave a comment. There will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, be aware. Episode 7 was released on June 11th, 2021 on Disney+. In this episode, Rex shows up on Ord Mantell and finds out that Bad Batch has not removed their inhibitor chips. Deeming the guys a danger to everyone around them, Rex leads Bad Batch to a starship graveyard on Broncha to use the scrapped Jedi cruiser's medical bay to surgically remove all of their chips. Voice actors D. Bradley Baker and Michelle Ang continue their roles as Bad Batch and Omega, and D. Bradley Baker reprises his role as Rex, and Rhea Perlman as Sid. The episode is directed by Saul Ruiz, who has directed 12 episodes of Star Wars Rebels, 6 episodes of Star Wars Resistance, 4 episodes of Clone Wars, and now 3 episodes of Bad Batch. The script is written by Jennifer Corbett, who's also producer on Bad Batch. As far as the plot elements, this episode is the midpoint of the season, and the midpoint in any story, particularly a Hollywood story, is going to reevaluate the main question presented at the beginning, give an answer, provide a deeper question, and then present the audience with a high note. In the series so far, I've been discussing 4 questions that were presented in episode 1. The most prominent question that we get, and the one that is building the most, is whether Bad Batch will solve the problem of their own inhibitor chips. And that is exactly what this episode is about. The episode starts off with Bad Batch racing away from a planet as 3 smaller ships chase them. In the back of the Havoc Marauder is Omega and Wrecker, who strap themselves in, as well as a cage that holds a lizard-like creature. Like any child, Omega has already named the animal in the short time they've had it. The lizard breaks free and Wrecker freaks out when it jumps on him. Omega catches the lizard in its cage amidst the chaos of the escape. Then Bad Batch is able to jump into hyperspace and get away. And we get the idea that Bad Batch has done several jobs for Sid, but we don't know how many. At Sid's, they notice an unfamiliar customer sitting in the corner covered with a hooded coat. The sleeves of the coat are similar to the sleeves we saw in the last episode on Rafa and Trace's customer. Wrecker and Omega ask Hunter if they can go do something, intimating that they have a tradition after every mission. This tells us that they have, in fact, done more missions after the original Droid Head mission. Hunter, Tech, and Echo go with Sid to her office to settle the bounty. Sid tells Hunter that they owe her for their operations, docking fees, fuel, and 20 boxes of Mantell mix. We find that Omega and Wrecker have developed a tradition of celebrating the end of a mission by each getting a box of Mantell mix from the market on Sid's tab. In Sid's establishment, Cliff and Norm approach the Dark Figure, and I think it's funny that they complain that the Dark Figure has taken one of their seats, which is something that was a running joke in the TV series Cheers, as both Cliff and Norm had their usual seats. The Dark Figure in the bar reveals himself to be Rex. As the guys catch up, Wrecker's head starts to hurt, and Rex discovers that the Bad Batch still have their inhibitor chips in their heads. Rex warns them that they are a danger to everyone, even Omega. Rex then leads them to Broncha, a graveyard for broken starships. They traverse the dense iron landscape, keeping an eye out for the Scrapper Guild. They find a Jedi cruiser and make their way inside. In a pool of water, Hunter notices something move and tells Tech to stay away from the water. Inside the cruiser, they come to a ledge and rig a cable to crawl across the gap. Wrecker is scared to cross because of the height, but gives in when Omega encourages him. As Wrecker shimmies across the cable, it snaps loose. Wrecker falls down the cavern, but gets caught in the tangled cable. He hangs above the water, which he notes smells bad. A beast then appears in the water, a Dianoga, which has several tentacles and a sarlacc pit-like mouth. It drags Wrecker under, while the gang tries to pull the cable to get him out. They finally free Wrecker by shooting the beast. They continue into the cruiser and find the medical bay. Tech starts to set up the surgical device, and then he scans Wrecker's head to find the chip. Wrecker is clearly bothered, most likely because of the procedure, as well as the pain the chip is giving him. Omega comforts Wrecker and then tells Hunter that the procedure is dangerous and they could all die. Rex tells her that the guys are more dangerous with the chips implanted. Before Tech can sedate Wrecker, Wrecker's chip fully malfunctions and he turns on Tech. Wrecker then turns on everyone else because all clones who disobeyed Order 66 must die. Rex leads Hunter and Echo out of the room to draw Wrecker into the passageway and away from the surgical device so he doesn't ruin it. Wrecker then incapacitates all 3 of them, and Omega comes out to draw Wrecker away. He chases her down the passageway, saying that she's in violation of Order 66 for aiding the Bad Batch. Omega hides in another medical room, but Wrecker finds her. She doesn't want to hurt him, but he, because of his chip, has no problem with hurting her. Then Rex stuns Wrecker and saves Omega. Tech finishes the procedure, but Wrecker does not immediately wake up, and Omega is worried. Tech says that Wrecker is alive, but his vitals haven't stabilized yet. Rex tells Hunter to take Omega topside to get her away in case Wrecker dies. Omega says she isn't going anywhere. Wrecker finally wakes up, and they do the procedure on Hunter, Tech, and Echo. Wrecker goes to Omega and apologizes to her for not being able to stop the chip's influence on him and putting her in danger. Omega forgives Wrecker and draws out a handful of Mantel mix. She states that the mission is over and they can't break with tradition. We then find Rex outside, where he tells someone through his comlink that he will meet them at the rendezvous. Hunter appears and says that he figured Rex wasn't out of the fight. Rex says he's still fighting for the Republic. He mentions that Bad Batch's skills would be a tremendous asset. Hunter says that Omega needs them and he needs to do what's best for his squad. Then Rex asks Hunter what that is, but Hunter doesn't know. The final shot is of the Scrapper Guild observing Hunter. The leader tells his minion to notify the Empire of the intruders on the Jedi cruiser. As far as the creative elements, the episode was full of epic establishing shots, Western-style imagery, A and B story payoffs, and meaningful dialogue. The planet of Broncha is desolate, and the starship graveyard is a metaphor for the galaxy. It's a rusty trash heap, but deep inside there is still value and life to be found. The main A story payoff is that Bad Batch solves the problem of their own inhibitor chips. There are a couple of B stories that get paid off here as well. The first is Wrecker's fear of heights. When they come to the ledge and Rex asks Wrecker to grab a cable, we know Wrecker is not going to like what's coming. And when Wrecker gets on the cable, we know something is going to happen because he's too heavy for the cable. The second is from the opening sequence. The lizard creature escapes and jumps on Wrecker, and he freaks out. When the Dianoga creature lurks in the water on Broncha, we get the sneaking suspicion that it's going to get Wrecker, and it does. The third is given to us when Bad Batch gets back from Ord Mantell in the beginning. Wrecker and Omega go to the market to get some Mantell mix, which has become a post-mission tradition. Wrecker isn't new to post-mission traditions, as he's the one who would scratch lines on the wall in their bunk room in Camino. The Mantell mix is a great reminder of that, and is set up for the payoff at the end when Wrecker apologizes to Omega, and Omega pulls out the Mantell mix, stating that the mission is over. The fourth B story is the kinship that has been developing between Wrecker and Omega. We've seen it several times in the episodes leading up, and this episode has that storyline front and center. When Wrecker doesn't wake up and Omega states that she isn't going anywhere, we understand her emotional stance. Something that is not so obvious is the fact that there was water in the ship graveyard. In the ancient world on Earth, water was a sign of life. The same was true in Westerns. A stream or watering hole meant something for the main character. In this episode, the presence of water, even with a monster in it, is a sign that there is still life in the galaxy. The Republic and all it represents good is not dead. On an even deeper level, the clones and the Jedi are not dead either. As far as the dialogue, the conversations in this episode are good, not because of any witty or clever dialogue, but because they move the story forward. The story in this episode is in the dialogue. It tells us a lot about the clones, their inhibitor chips, and what they feel about the struggle they are in. Yes, the characters are doing things, but the story is happening mostly through the dialogue. When Rex finally reveals himself, he asks about Omega, and Hunter says she's a clone like them. When Rex meets Omega, he tells her that he's never met a clone like her before, and she instinctively knows that he's a Generation 1 clone due to the lines on his face. It's taken as wrinkles, but she says lines. She could have meant wrinkles, but she could have also meant that further generations have different facial shapes due to the repeated use of the Jango Fett biomaterial. We also get a real sense for the kinship between Omega and Wrecker and how they talk to each other in the opening sequence. And then again when they get the Mantell mix, and finally in the climax when Wrecker is hunting Omega, and how Omega states she's not leaving Wrecker's side until he wakes up. The dialogue is the journey here. At the end, Rex states to his contact that he'll meet them at the rendezvous. We wonder who he's talking to, and we get that he's still in the game. And the parting words between Rex and Hunter give us hope that they'll work together again. And Hunter has finally asked the question of what Bad Batch's mission is. For character development, it might not be easy to tell, but this episode belongs to Wrecker. He's the protagonist, his chip is the antagonist, and Omega is the main foil, or the character which shows Wrecker's progression. This doesn't seem obvious because Wrecker turns bad, but this makes the episode a masterpiece in my mind. It's very much like the 2014 film Nightcrawler, in which Jake Gyllenhaal's character is the protagonist, and we desperately hope throughout the film that the people around him will stop him, but they fail. In this episode, it's the same thing. We are rooting for Wrecker, but not in the way that we normally root for him. We want Wrecker to fail. We want him to stop, and for the squad to get his inhibitor chip out of his head. And when Rex stuns him, we feel relieved. Wrecker develops the most in this episode, and he brings Omega along with him. When Wrecker apologizes to Omega, it's a stark change from episode 3, where he is willing to take her food, and Hunter has to admonish him in order to get him to apologize to her. In that same scene, Omega is willing to give up her food to Wrecker as much as she's willing to keep it. In this episode, Omega refuses to leave Wrecker's side, and at the end she shares her Mantel mix with Wrecker because it's a tradition they've developed together. Another thing to note is that in episode 3, when Wrecker is willing to take Omega's food, he just refers to her as Kid. In this episode, when he apologizes to her, he calls her by her name, Omega. On a larger scale, all the characters develop here. Tech shows his skills again, Echo shows his wisdom, and Hunter shows that he is struggling to find a purpose for his squad beyond keeping them alive. In the last episode, he stated that it was much simpler just being soldiers. This new world is proving to be difficult for him. He's the leader, and it's not so easy anymore, especially with Omega around. As far as themes go, this episode is mostly about story. It's the midpoint of the season, so we're trying to answer a lot of questions and move the story into a much deeper area, so theme is not necessarily at the forefront. There is an underlying theme though, and that is brotherhood and kinship. And when I say brotherhood, I mean that in general terms. This theme is brought out in the relationship between Wrecker and Omega. What they've been developing is extremely strong at this point. Omega knows Wrecker can't control the things his chip is telling him to do, but she still won't hurt him. And after the surgery, Wrecker does not need a prompt to address what happened. The guys also show their respect for Rex. Though he's a rag, they still like him. So as far as the 4 questions that I've been asking in the last few episodes, will Clone Force 99 fix their own inhibitor chips? Yes. Mission accomplished. Will Clone Force 99 get Crosshair back and fix his? With the Scrapper Guild calling the Empire, it's a good bet that this is front and center now. Will Clone Force 99 save their brothers? At the end, when Hunter and Rex talk, we get the sense that Rex is worried about the Republic and finding other clones to save. Hunter doesn't know what his squad's mission is because he's new at this. Rex is a step ahead of him in that process. We know that Hunter needs to get Crosshair back and then save the clone legacy. Will Clone Force 99 reconcile the clones with the Jedi? Rex takes the squad to a scrap Jedi cruiser. The symbolism here is that there's still life in the Jedi Order. Even if it looks on the outside to be a dead carcass, on the inside there's a spark that's still going. Overall, I thought this episode was fantastic. We've answered the first question in the Clone Force 99's overall mission, and it was epic. We see that Omega is a valued member of the squad, and that the danger the inhibitor chips pose to the squad has been neutralized. Rex is clearly on a mission to reinvigorate the remnants of the Republic against the Empire. He states, "I spent my entire life fighting for the Republic. I can't stop now." This is his mission. We are left with the question of Bad Batch's mission. And even though Hunter doesn't see it clearly, we know that they are on a trajectory to get Crosshair back, save their brothers, and reconcile the clones of the Jedi. I think that there is another question that I need to start thinking about in all this, and that is what Omega's purpose is. I've stated before that I think Omega is going to be the one to finish the last mission of reconciling the relationship with the Jedi. If that is true, I think we will start to see that come out more and more in the coming episodes. But this is a long way off, so I don't think the storytellers are going to delve too deep into that yet. So that's all I have for today. If you like the content in today's video, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe.